Help. What did he do? What happened?
So we do believe that the person being forced into that vehicle was the 14-year-old that is currently missing.
As the desperate search for a missing 14-year-old boy continues tonight, there are now questions about why it took so long for his school to report his absence. 14-year-old Shama Jolayemi has been missing for almost 36 hours, grabbed by two men in a Jeep as the teen yelled for help. As an intense search for Jolayemi continues tonight, there are also questions about an hours-long delay by his school in notifying his parents that he was absent. Lorinda Redekop joins us live now from 31 Division near Jane and Finch with the very latest on this case. Lorinda.
Well, Dwight, we are going to be hearing from police. They say that they will be giving an update at 6:15. But those other questions you mentioned, the TDSB has confirmed that 4 staff members from the boys' high school, Newton Brook Secondary School, they're now on home assignment. And that's while the school board investigates what happened, because the parents weren't told by the school board until after 6 p.m. that he had not been to school. And the TDSB says that normally a first alert should come at 11 a.m. Well, that didn't happen, and it was more than 9 hours later before the parents called police to tell them that their son was missing. Police say 14-year-old Shama Jolayemi was grabbed yesterday morning near Jane and Driftwood at around 8:30 a.m., forced into a black Jeep Wrangler by 2 men.
A 14-year-old boy was observed to be screaming, "Help me, help me."
Police have security camera images of the vehicle, though no license plate number. It's described as having oversized front tires, a push bar in the front, and round fog lights. Here's the description of the suspects.
2 males, approximately 6 feet, 140 pounds, wearing dark jackets, and they were black males between the ages of 18 and 22 years.
Today, police went door to door in the neighborhood and also searched by horseback. They also want to speak with the missing boy's stepbrother, Olakan Ozakoya.
He's not a suspect in this, but we do believe that he may have information that might be beneficial to the police.
Maureen Archibald says she works with young people in the area and knows Shama, calling him polite. She arrived with a pastor, hoping to speak with his parents. She had this message for whoever did this.
For him to be kidnapped and screaming and yelling for help, what did he do? What happened? Just return, but the kid release him, and let's try and solve the problem. Don't take him life. Don't kill him. Please, we're asking, no more killing.
In the neighborhood, people are frightened and confused.
I have 2 sons, and they're coming in and out, and you never know what's going on. So it's really hard to think about it. How could this happen here? So now everybody's asking if we should have security in the complex.
Now, Dwight, we didn't hear directly from the family today. They have requested privacy, but so many people are hoping for some good news from this story. Police say they will be giving an update at 6:15, and we hope to take that live for you here on CBC News Toronto.
Yes, we will be back with you for that. Thank you, Lorinda. There are now 23 cases of COVID-19 in Ontario. The latest, the first case in Peel Region, confirmed just in the past few hours, a man in his 60s in Mississauga who just returned from a cruise. The Grand Princess is currently off the coast of San Francisco, not allowed to dock. The Mississauga man was on board from February 11th to the 21st. He returned to Canada on February 28th. Right now, there are 235 Canadians on board. 2 previous passengers of the Grand Princess tested positive for COVID-19. One of those passengers has since died. So far, none of the Canadians still on board have tested positive. Earlier today, Ontario health officials confirmed 2 more cases in our province.
50-odd-year-old person from Iran travel, and that person is at home in isolation. And then we have another one, which was a new one for us, and you heard the press release this morning from Waterloo with a traveler from northern Italy. Okay, well, good afternoon.
Officials are also saying a patient diagnosed earlier with COVID-19 has now recovered. More than 1,500 people have been tested in Ontario for the virus so far. 78 people are currently under investigation. Two major Canadian travel insurance providers, Manulife and TwoGo, will no longer cover new customers who want to cancel their trips due to the coronavirus outbreak. The announcement comes as we are starting to see an impact from travelers bailing on plans due to the virus. Chris Glover is following this story and joins us live now from King and Spadina. And Chris, Flight Centre, a big travel agency, is seeing passengers getting the jitters about travel right now.
It certainly is. Flight Centre says that its new bookings to China has dropped 50% this February compared to last. And they are seeing a small increase in the number of cancellations. But more than anything, they're just getting a lot of phone calls and a lot of questions. Some people are asking, if I want to cancel my trip, who will pay? Well, it turns out that depends on which insurance provider you're working with, and you could be on the hook. Air travelers around the world have been put on notice to prepare for COVID-19.
We have masks in the luggage in case, we see someone coughing a lot or anything. My mom did think about that, obviously. Apart from that, not really.
While not all are buying cancellation insurance like this woman and her kids.
No.
Going forward, two major insurance companies say if you cancel due to the virus, you'll no longer get your money back.
I don't think in their wildest dreams they imagined that there would be this much potential of claims, and now it's coming to reality.
Even if your trip is to a country not on the Canadian government's COVID-19 advisory list when you book, but is added later, you still won't get your money back if you get insurance through Manulife or TwoGo. This travel insurance broker says these companies won't be alone for long. What do you think might happen next?
They should all follow. I can't imagine one that would want to stand alone and just, great to get all that business, but not so good to get all those claims, I would think would be a problem.
And how much money in terms of claims might we be talking about?
I think millions.
Many major companies are making the decision to stay home for you. United Airlines is slashing flights abroad and at home.
So go wherever far is to you.
And tour companies like G Adventures are cutting too. All their trips in March to China and South Korea are canceled.
A new way to experience the world.
With G Adventures National Geographic trips to China, Japan, and Italy canceled for the next few months. And while going forward, canceling because the country has the virus might not get you your money back. What if you get COVID and you're sick here in
and you want to cancel your trip? That again just came out today that will not be covered.
And Dwight, get this, a major international airline association made some big news today when they said what they're seeing already is indicating to them that we could see $100 billion worth of losses in the airline industry due to COVID-19. And they're very worried about that.
Yeah, I think one in the UK already went under. Now, Chris, what about all of the airlines? What are they doing?
Well, here in Canada, we're seeing increased flexibility. So WestJet, Air Canada, and Air Transat have said if you want to change a flight this month, you can do that free of charge. And what I was hearing from travel insiders is we might actually end up seeing some deals over the next few weeks. That depends, though, on if you want to take them.
That's right. Might be a risk. Thank you for that, Chris. Now, coronavirus concerns means Starbucks customers won't be able to get their coffee in a reusable mug. The world's biggest coffee seller is temporarily forbidding customers from bringing their own mugs because of fears that they could help spread the virus. The chain has a policy of offering a 10-cent discount to any customer who brings in their own mug. They will still honor that discount, but customers will get a disposable cup instead. Starbucks is also stepping up its cleaning and sanitizing efforts at its stores. The trial for Alec Manassian begins next month, and today in a pre-trial, the judge heard that he admitted to planning and carrying out the attack that killed 10 people. Manassian faces 10 counts of first-degree murder and 16 counts of attempted murder. He's accused of driving a van into pedestrians on the sidewalk in April 2018. Several victims and families of those who died in the attack were in the courtroom. Today's pre-trial was to lay out the agreed statement of facts. The judge says the case will be about Manassian's state of mind at the time of the attack and not whether or not he did it. The judge also is a judge-alone trial, and it's set to get started in April. Thousands of people across Canada, mostly women, are victims of domestic violence every year. Now, a countrywide CBC News investigation is digging into this deadly issue and exploring the life-saving solutions. Here in the GTA, domestic homicides are a growing problem, but experts say they're often preventable. Lauren Pelly joins us live now with more on this. And Lauren, you spent several weeks exploring this issue for us. What are the findings in our region?
Well, as you said, experts are saying that these types of homicides are both predictable and preventable if you know what to look out for. Now, based on our analysis, there were 86 people killed as a result of intimate partner violence across Canada in 2018. Now, that's the most recent year where we could get reliable national data. Closer to home, here in the GTA, there were 11 deaths that year, and close to half of those victims were assaulted or in abusive relationships before they died. Now, one of those local victims was a 25-year-old woman named Alicia Lewandowski. She was killed 2 years ago today, and we spent time with her sister recently to hear what led up to Alicia's death. Now, just a warning, this might be difficult to watch for some of our viewers.
So my sister's name was Alicia Marie Lewandowski, so it was always kind of cool because it rhymed. And she was so beautiful. Not just on the outside, but inside she was so beautiful. She always gave the people the benefit of the doubt. And I think that was also her downfall. The relationship was not healthy. When you're in a relationship, in my opinion, the person that you're with wants to be a part of your life in every aspect. This was the opposite of that, where Alicia was isolated and was always just with him. Next thing you know, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning and I'm getting a call from my mom, and my heart just sunk because I just had this bad feeling. And I'll never forget that call. My mom was hysterical. And so I immediately was grabbing my clothes and getting myself dressed as fast as I could. I remember turning to get onto the street, and before I could even turn, I already saw an officer at one corner and blue lights flashing. I'm thinking, what has happened? So the officer lifted up the yellow tape and let me drive in. And I got out of the car and I just said to him, and I looked at him and I said to him, is she okay? Just please tell me, is she okay? Like, what's going on? And he took my hand and he said, I'm so sorry to tell you, but she's gone.
I covered a lot of homicides in my career, and these ones were always so difficult. Lauren, what are the warning signs that people should be looking out for to protect their loved ones?
You can imagine there's a lot to pay attention to when it comes to these red flags of escalating violence. There's a clear pattern that you can watch out for, and experts say whether you're a family member or a doctor or a support worker, you need to say something if you suspect someone else is at risk.
It can be very isolated, and the signs are there, right? It starts off with, I don't have as much contact with my girlfriends anymore, right? I don't see them as much. So these little things start to happen, and I would want women to be watching for those things.
They're telling us something when someone starts harming or threatening to harm our other family members, our pets, when their mental health challenges increase, when they start threatening and stalking us, when they start financially controlling us. All those things actually increase our ability to actually see that these things are predictable and preventable.
Now, there's still more to explore for this series. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a deeper dive into how domestic violence impacts immigrants here in the GTA. Since experts say newcomers to Canada, they're often the most at risk.
Looking forward to your report. Thank you, Lauren. Now we have more from our domestic violence series coming up for you tonight. What's missing when it comes to reducing high-risk domestic violence? In 5 minutes, I interview the women in charge of a new pilot project that's finally bringing all the stakeholders to the same table. Plus, a little later, we look at the numbers that show how many times women are turned away from shelters every single day. That is coming up at 6:30. All right, Colette, the snow has melted away, so of course we're going to get some more to replace it overnight?
Well, yeah, of course, we have to do that. But yeah, boy, it melts and we get these mild temperatures today, just over 5 degrees, so running above seasonal. Seasonal this time of year is around just 1.5, 2 degrees or so. So another mild day, and this is where the current temperatures lie. So 3 degrees in Toronto, Oshawa 3, Markham 3, Mississauga as well, St. Catharines 2, and Hamilton, and same thing over here towards Kitchener. This evening, generally quiet conditions. You can see a little bit of activity to our north, and there are some light flurries, kind of a little bit of light snow that's pushing through off of Georgian Bay, and seeing that moving across northern portions of Lake Huron. We do have a quiet evening ahead, so you're okay if you have some plans and you're headed out. Don't worry too much about it. But showing you the broader perspective and the system coming our way, it is going to move through pretty quickly, but it's also bringing in some precipitation. So we'll see, first of all, some showers coming into southwestern Ontario, but as that moisture comes towards the GTA and the overnight hours and the temperature comes down closer to freezing, it will come in. It'll be patchy, but as some flurries and then a little bit of light snow is going to start moving into our skies. Now, it looks like it's going to have some trouble kind of filling in for the morning commute, so that will work in our favor, obviously, but I would still allow a little extra time and be prepared. There will likely be some areas, at least, with some wet roadways. It does fill in a little more as it's sliding through, getting into a bit of a mix with some rain showers at times, or very, very wet flurries, and then eventually, as we get towards tomorrow evening, clearing out and setting us up for clear skies overnight Friday, but also for sunshine on Saturday. So there's lots to talk about in terms of some good things coming this weekend. In the short term, as I say, this evening is just fine. Overnight, though, we start to see the precipitation moving in, getting into a bit of a mix, and I do want you to note that the winds are going to get quite strong as we go into tomorrow afternoon and evening, so it's going to be quite breezy. So a little different feel to the day tomorrow, Dwight.
Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Despite a new offer from the government, 2 of the province's teachers' unions went ahead with a strike today.
We'd all rather be at work. I hope we do come to an agreement. I think that the government's been trying to make it sound like it's about money for us, and that's not what it's about. It's about quality education, public education for students.
Well, I'm out here because we want to reduce class sizes. For adult education, we have no caps on class sizes, so we have 40, 50 students per class. So we see how much damage is done when you increase class sizes.
Teachers with the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation and the Ontario English Catholic Teachers Association carried banners and signs around the legislature. Earlier this week, the government offered to increase average high school class sizes from 22 last year to 23 next year instead of the original target of 28. It also said it would allow an opt-out for e-learning courses. Now, today in the legislature, Premier Ford said the lack of progress in contract talks with teachers, even after the government's concession, shows the dispute is all about compensation. We promised to take you back to North York, the Jane and Driftwood area, 31 Division. They're updating the missing 14-year-old that was abducted there yesterday. Take a listen.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Superintendent Steve Watts. I am the unit commander of the Organized Crime Enforcement Section for Toronto Police. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your patience. We know there's been considerable interest in gathering information about this case. Our priority has been and continues to be the safe return of Shema, and because of this, I may be limited in what information I can share. I can tell you that the boy's parents reported him missing to police at approximately 5:30 p.m. yesterday. Police responded and an investigation began. Once it was determined there was a legitimate concern for the boy, the TPS requested an Amber Alert from the Ontario Provincial Police. That Amber Alert remains in effect as we stand here today. We believe that Shema was abducted as retribution for an unpaid drug debt. Investigators believe that Shema's brother, Ola Lekin Osakoya, owes a large debt in relation to a multi-kilo cocaine rip and has since fled the GTA. As a result, we are alleging that 2 to 3 males forced Shema into a dark-colored Jeep Wrangler in the area of his residence at Jane and Driftwood sometime around 8:31 a.m. on yesterday's date. Since then, there has been no sighting of Shema. We also know that a burned-out vehicle matching the description of a Jeep Wrangler has been located in the Caledon area. We continue to work with the OPP, and we believe this is the same vehicle as was used in our abduction. I can tell you and state unequivocally and categorically that the full resources of the Toronto Police Service, in conjunction with the valuable assistance of the OPP, has been engaged and tasked with finding Shema and bringing him home safely. We would encourage those who took Shema to drop him off in a safe place, contact a lawyer, and turn yourselves in. Anyone who has any information in relation to Shema, please contact investigators at 416-808-3100 or Crime Stoppers Anonymous. If anyone in the public sees Shema, please call 911 immediately. And I'll answer some questions now. I'll answer questions one at a time. Thank you.
Superintendent Watts, have you heard from the abductors? Has there been any communication where they're asking for any kind of debt communication?
There has been communication. I'm not going to speak to the actual substance of that communication. Yes.
But have they spoken to you directly or with the brother and stepbrother?
I'm not going to answer that.
Have you been in touch with the stepbrother? I know you've
Yes, we have.
So what about the boy? What do you know about his condition? Is he still in good shape? Have they indicated to you that he's okay?
We have not had any indication of that.
I couldn't hear it. This is a hostage situation, like a live one.
This is a live abduction. Yes, correct.
And your communication with these abductors, you just sent a message to them now.
I absolutely just sent a message to them now. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, I think that the point is, if he is alive, the best thing is, as you said, to turn it over and end this now before it goes further. Because it's pretty dark and ugly where it goes from there.
Once again, I'll reiterate that we will and are utilizing the full resources of the Toronto Police Service in conjunction with our partner services in resolving this and bringing Shema home. Yes.
Superintendent, what's the dollar value of this cocaine deal?
I can tell you it was in the summer of 2019 that this occurred, and I can tell you it's in the area of 100 kilos, which is approximately $4 million. That's the amount of product that was taken.
How much does he still owe to these abductors, or how much do the people say that he needs to pay them back?
I'm not going to speak to that.
Do they still live in the same household?
No. No.
Okay, so at what point did people actually start knowing? Because we heard that you started screaming from all the people in the morning. When?
There was initial police response at approximately 8:31 in the morning. A call came in as an unknown trouble call. That call was investigated throughout the day by 31 Division personnel. That included canvassing, seeking video, statements from witnesses. So that continued throughout the day. For approximately 8 hours, a secondary call was put in by his father that afternoon when he failed to return from school. Correct. That's correct.
You knew that something had happened and you didn't know what it was.
That's correct.
At what time did you connect those two events, the unknown trouble call and
It would have been subsequent to 5:37 p.m. It would have been after the second call.
Is the stepbrother cooperating with you? And if not, what is your message to him? And then the two people that you're looking for, or is it just two in relation to this abduction?
We have had cooperation from the stepbrother, yes.
What about what do you say to these suspects if they're watching?
For the third time, I'll say you need to release Shema. I appreciate high level, cocaine business and the situation that faces them, but this is a 14-year-old innocent child. He is not a part of that business. He's not a part of that lifestyle. And I'm saying the full weight of the Toronto Police will be brought to bear, and we'll push forward on this case moving forward.
In your experience, Superintendent, have you ever seen a family member abducted like this in organized crime connection?
Yes, it has happened before. Yes, it has happened before.
Is it prevalent? It's not something that
I wouldn't say that it's prevalent. I'd like to think that, business is business, and if you are in a high-risk lifestyle, then you run the risk of being abducted. But I would suggest that innocent children and innocent relatives should be kept out of it.
Is there any indication why they took Shema as opposed to any other family member or anyone else who could lose the stepbrother?
I'm not going to speak to that now. No.
So the stepbrother does normally live here?
No, my understanding, he's not resided here for a while. As I said initially, he fled the GTA subsequent to that incident back in the summer, so he's not been here for a while.
Was there any indication beforehand that these people were going to do something to the stepbrother or his family? Was there any kind of indication that they were getting close to taking action because he hadn't been paid that debt?
No.
So who are we talking about? These are not low level criminals. It's had people that pay $4 million to be
I've spoken about this before in previous press conferences. It's high level cocaine traffickers. Toronto is a an epicenter and is a jump off point for large shipments of cocaine. That's not a secret. So I'm not going to speak to that at this point.
Do you have any indication?
I'm going to take two more questions.
Do you have any indication where Shema might be now? Given that now you believe you've located that vehicle that he's abducted into, what's your best guess? Because obviously this is Ontario-wide.
Right.
Is he still in the province? Where do you think he might be?
Well, I'm not in the business of guessing, and I'm not in situations like this. But I'm going to assume he's still in Ontario. Yes.
Is the Toronto District School?
I'm not going to speak to that. No.
So
No.
you're telling us that you believe that Shema is still alive.
I believe that he is. Yes, I believe that he is.
Do you believe the Toronto District School Board in its error in notifying Shema's family? Do you believe that they are possibly criminally liable in some regard to what's happened here today? Could they possibly be facing some sort of negligence charge, anything of that nature?
Well, I'm not going to make any comment with the TDSB and their current situation. That's all I have for you tonight.
Though, if you had that advance jump in order to piece those together, that would have been in the morning.
Right. What I can tell you is that our personnel, the 31 Division personnel, we're all fully engaged. I appreciate there was a connection there, but I can tell you with him being taken, that the investigation has advanced, and we are advancing in a number of different ways on this, and so I'll just leave it at that. So thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Superintendent Watts of 31 Division updating the abduction of a 14-year-old boy, Shema Joel Yemi. Investigators now saying they believe he was taken as retribution related to his stepbrother's drug dealings, 100 kilos of cocaine, some $4 million worth. And this is retribution to try to get back at his brother. And that's why this innocent 14-year-old was taken. We are at the scene up in 31 Division near Jane and Driftwood. We'll bring you the latest on this as it breaks. Right now, we're going to take a break and we will be right back. Toronto Group is looking at a team-based approach to reducing domestic violence and saving lives. It gets city agencies to meet and identify women who are at high risk of serious harm or death. I spoke to the woman spearheading the project about the success similar programs have had in the UK. We'll start with the easy question. What is MIRAC? What's the MIRAC?
Yeah, of course. So MIRAC actually stands for Multi-Agency Risk Assessment Conference. And it's just that. It is a meeting in which different agencies come together and they discuss high-risk domestic violence cases. And they share information on those cases, look at the risks, and then they develop a support plan, a safety plan going forward. And within that safety plan are actions that each of those agencies are going to carry out and be held accountable to.
So we are now bringing it to Ontario.
Yes.
When do you plan to start, and what exactly will it look like in this province?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've actually already started some of the foundational work. So we're really taking this time, because it's a model that's been rolled out in the UK, we want to take this time to look at how can it work here in Canada? What needs to be adapted? What needs to be changed? And then we're getting to a point soon, in a couple months, to identify 2 communities, one a neighborhood in Toronto and one in a rural community, to set up these tables.
As the system works now, women's safety, is it falling through the cracks? Like, can we talk about some of the issues that MIRAC is trying to fix?
Yeah, absolutely. So MIRAC is very much designed for those experiencing high risk, so those at risk of domestic homicide. So it's really looking at that group. It's just one intervention that we need amongst many to address violence against women.
And we know that every 6 days in this country, a woman loses their life
Yes, so
at the hands of a domestic partner.
Absolutely. Every week in this country, a woman is being killed by someone that she's in an intimate relationship with. And that's really the distinction here, right? In the sense that men are more likely to be killed by an acquaintance, by a stranger. Women are more likely to be killed by someone that they're in an intimate relationship with. So MIRAC really addresses that. So it's the idea that not one single agency can respond to these cases. These need a multi-agency approach. We need housing there, we need police there, we need violence against women sectors there. And that's really what MIRAC is about.
And in the end, we're trying to save lives.
Absolutely. MIRAC has been extremely successful in the UK. So it was started in the UK in 2003. It's now in up to 300 communities in the UK. One evaluation actually found that 60% of those women going through MIRAC reported no further violence.
Really?
And that's an amazing outcome. But on top of just the stats, I think it's about us starting to share information and working together and responding to this public issue through a public response.
Talk about some of the challenges the program might face, though. I'm thinking about maybe privacy issues.
Yeah, absolutely. We anticipate, Dwight, that our biggest challenge is going to be around information sharing. It's already a challenge in our communities in the sense that information sharing, there's privacy, confidentiality legislation.
Yes.
That legislation can be vague. There can be gray areas in it. There's also fear to share information among agencies, whether because you're unsure of the legislation, fear of repercussions, fear of breaking trust with your client. So that's why we're doing the work right now, to find out what is this legislation, how do we work within it, or how do we set up our own policies and protocols so that these agencies can share information.
As a crime reporter in the city, I covered a lot of these kind of homicides, and I always, after you go into the backstory, after the woman has been killed, you see all the warning signs that led up to this, the police contacts, the neighbors saying, oh yeah, we always heard commotion. As a society, what can we do then, I guess, to help identify and help some of these women who, some of them may not want to come forward themselves and want that help at this time?
This is a public issue. This isn't a private family matter. And the more we break down that stigma, the more I think women will be willing to come forward, and neighbors or family members will say, actually, something's happening there and it's not right. And it's actually my responsibility to do something about it.
What do you hope that this program will achieve here?
Well, ultimately, of course, we hope to reduce high-risk domestic violence and prevent domestic homicides. But even more than that, it is about having a broader conversation around how we are sharing information. How can we be sure that safety is trumping privacy in these cases? And also, how do we make this more of a public issue? This isn't a private issue, and we feel that because it's a public issue, we need a public response to it, and this is just one of them.
Appreciate your time, and good luck with it.
Thank you.
Important work. Now, if you're in a bad situation, here are ways you can get help. You can call the Assaulted Women's Helpline at 1-866-863-0511 or text pound 7233 on any Rogers Fido Bell and Telus phone. And remember, if you are in immediate danger, always call 911. Ahead of his 100th birthday, all a Second World War vet wanted was 100 birthday cards.
It's gone across the world. Right, we're getting calls from everywhere. Right, cards from all over the world.
Now, tomorrow's the big day, and you won't believe how many he ended up getting. We'll have that story for you coming up. We want to update you now on the search for that missing 14-year-old boy. Shema Jolayemi was abducted Wednesday morning. Just minutes ago, police updated the investigation.
We believe that Shema was abducted as retribution for an unpaid drug debt. Investigators believe that Shema's brother, Olalekan Osakoya, owes a large debt in relation to a multi-kilo cocaine rip and has since fled the GTA.
Police say that drug debt was likely in the neighborhood of about $4 million. They believe the 14-year-old was grabbed yesterday morning by 2 to 3 men and is being held as retribution for that debt. Police say they have not received any word on Juliemi's condition and say that he's completely innocent in all of this. Now police found a burned-out vehicle in the Caledon area, and they now believe that was the Jeep Wrangler used in the abduction. We will continue to follow this developing story and have the latest on our website and on CBC Toronto News tonight for you at 11. A tow truck operator was injured in a shooting near Leslie on the 401 last night. The victim's vehicle was found near the North York General Hospital entrance. He made his own way inside for treatment. Bullet holes were visible in the vehicle's door. You can see them there. Police were called to the area near the Go Oil station around 7:30 last night. Now, investigators say the man's injuries are not life-threatening, but police are looking into whether this shooting is connected to the ongoing turf war among some GTA tow truck drivers. Sexual assault centers in Ontario are getting a funding boost after all. That's according to the Associate Minister of Children and Women's Issues. As Lisa Shing reports, it comes a day after we heard a different government ministry cut their funding.
For the first time, victims are being heard.
Jill Dunlop stood in the House today announcing annual funding to Ontario's sexual assault centres. That's $2 million every year in addition to the $14.8 million they were already going to get.
This funding will go to support the important work they are doing for victims and survivors of sexual assault and human trafficking.
Just yesterday, news broke that the Ministry of the Attorney General would not be renewing a $1 million funding boost the centres received last year. For the Toronto Rape Crisis Centre, that meant laying off 3 staff members who helped reduce the waitlist for services from 18 to 6 months.
Playing around with communication around whether or not we're able to provide that reliable, high-level service to survivors is not okay.
Despite getting a call from the province late today, workers there are still wondering why the government backtracked so quickly and what the money can be used for.
It sounds nice, but what we really want to see is to be able to continue on with the programming and services.
And if they don't get those answers quickly, the wait list will balloon and 3 people will be out of jobs by the end of the month.
Many of the service users and survivors they've engaged with are still going to connect with our centre, but they're not going to have that person that they built that trust with until we know whether or not we can reinstate their jobs.
This government has been putting rape crisis centers and survivors through hell over the last 24 hours, and that's just unforgivable.
We know the money is coming from the government's anti-trafficking initiative, but so far, not a lot of details about how the funding will be divided among the centres in the province and when exactly it'll kick in. Lisa Shing, CBC News, Toronto.
The sari has been worn by South Asian women for centuries. It's something one GTA woman has been on a mission to modernize.
One day I woke up to a picture of mine in a sari. I had 500 followers at the time, but it had 1,200 likes. So I was like, who are these people? And they love the sari as much as I do. So that's what I'm gonna give them more of.
And now she's turned it into a full-time job. Tia Buva is part of a panel tonight called She Means Business. It's hosted by CBC's Nanaba Duncan. It's in celebration of International Women's Day. You can stream it live on the CBC Toronto Facebook page tonight at 7. We'll be right back. So, Colette, is this one of those great slushy snowfalls that all happens while we're sleeping?
Not quite, but the great slushy part you got right, Dwight. It'd be nice if it all happened overnight, but it looks like we are going to see wet conditions on our roads off and on through the day on Friday. So I'll walk you through the scenario. Current temperature 3 degrees after we hit a high just over 5 degrees. You can see some flakes to the north of us. For the GTA, it is quiet as we go into the evening hours and for a good portion of the overnight. And then this is going to start to fill in as the system moves a little closer. As we go towards tomorrow morning, yes, we may be seeing a bit of a mix, but in general, it's probably going to be wet flurries and a bit patchy in nature, but still you'll want to allow a little bit of extra time. As it kind of rotates through, there'll be some breaks in the precipitation likely at times, and then some flurries and some stronger winds on the backside. Now, because of those winds, we may start to see some lake effects showing up there in the lee of Lake Huron and Georgian Bay. So I'm going to show you the accumulation map, but one thing I want to point out is that once we get into Friday night and Saturday, we've got high pressure building in. It means sunshine, and we're going to keep some of that sunshine into Sunday too, and the temperatures are really going to warm up. I want to show you, I know it looks sporadic, but 14 centimeters of Mount Forest, I think that's on the heavy side, but it is at least showing you that locally there'll be some areas that will pick up more, and again, likely because of lake effect. We could be anywhere from a trace to a couple of centimeters, I would expect, in the GTA, and a few pockets, maybe Hamilton, you'll pick up 3 or 4 centimeters, so just a little bit heavier there. Overnight tonight, there you go. It's a little bit spotty, but coming in is that temperature's right around freezing. That's why we get some of a mix, some rain mixing in with the snow, especially tomorrow afternoon, and those stronger winds. 2 degrees, we're knocked back to seasonal, but Saturday we're going to double that. We go to 4, we move our clocks ahead, we lose an hour, but we gain warmth. 9 to 10 degrees Sunday, keeping the sunshine through the weekend. 10 degrees, rain showers, yes, but still mild, Dwight, into the beginning of next week, too.
An hour for warmth, fair trade. Thanks, Colette.
You got it.
This weather update is brought to you by Fairmont Le Chateau Frontenac, the best location for your next spring break getaway in Quebec City.
He's the veteran who had one simple wish, 100 cards for his 100th birthday, and boy, did Canada and the world deliver. How many he got, coming up.
Last week, we got the news that over 1 million Canadians have been lifted out of poverty since 2015. Think about that for a second. Think about what that means for people. Because at the end of the day, the statistics aren't actually what matters most. What really matters are the Canadians behind the numbers.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stopped by the Boys and Girls Club of East Scarborough today. He was there to discuss Canada's poverty reduction strategy. It aims to cut poverty in half by 2030. On this day, 49 years ago, Justin Trudeau's parents got married in a surprise ceremony, but the 29-year age difference between Pierre and Margaret had people on the streets of Toronto talking. This week in 1971, the most eligible bachelor in the country was taken off the market. Pierre Trudeau shocked the country with an unexpected marriage to Margaret St. Clair. He was 51, she was 22. CBC hit Bloor Street that day to ask Torontonians what they thought of the surprise.
And I have a daughter, 20, so this sort of shocked me, but I'm thrilled. I think it's great. She must be an exceptional gal.
She's a little young for him, but that's his affair.
I think it's just wonderful. That was a very good idea. How did you feel about him marrying such a young girl? That is a very good idea, too.
Yeah, I don't really care that he got married. Don't like him. I'm glad that he's found someone.
What about her being 22?
I think that's groovy. I just don't care about him, that's all.
I thought it was the funniest thing I ever saw in my life.
I was envious to a certain extent. And I just... but I was just hoping that he would have called me, but he never did.
He asked for 100 cards on his 100th birthday, but today's Second World War veteran Fred Arsenault got a whole lot more. Philippe Luchanek was at the celebration for the soon-to-be centenarian who has captured the hearts of thousands.
They came from all over to celebrate a special milestone. The birthday boy piped in by a member of his old regiment, the Cape Breton Highlanders.
So we're showing the same insignia as he had worn during the Second World War. So we're very proud of that.
Cards, gifts, and honors from around the world, including a plaque from the government of the Netherlands, a country he and other Canadian soldiers helped to liberate during the Second World War. A portrait from the Royal Canadian Navy painted by a sailor who was originally from Afghanistan.
It's patriotic, I guess, in a way, but it shows like his sacrifice, and it's somber, and yet there's, I guess, a positive attitude to it as well.
Tributes from men and women serving in the Canadian Armed Forces and school children around the world have poured in. It all started with a birthday wish from his son, shared with only friends and family at first.
In the morning it was tweeted by Doug Ford, then it was tweeted in the afternoon by John Tory, and then the next day it was tweeted by Justin Trudeau. So after that, it's gone across the world. Right, we're getting calls from everywhere, right? Cards from all over the world.
The initial appeal was pretty modest, 100 cards, one for every year of a remarkable life. What he'll likely get is 1,000 times that when they all finally come trickling in. As of today, though, this is how many cards Fred has received. His son says this is not just about his dad.
They're dear to my heart, all the veterans are, right? And it's good because we remember them on Remembrance Day, they have Valentine's for veterans. We need to remember them all year.
A day to remember for Fred.
Yeah, I will. You bet.
To help us all, lest we forget. Philip Lishanok, CBC News, Toronto.
One of the first people in the newsroom to get a card and have us cited and send it off right here.
You and I.
Yes,
we got one,
but yeah.
I'm glad he got so many, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Fred. All right, and weather not so good for his birthday, though.
And a little bit messy, yeah. We do have a system. It's going to move through quickly, but it brings in some wet flurries as we go through the overnight towards tomorrow morning, and then through the day, maybe changing to a little bit of rain mixed in there with some light wet snow. A couple of centimeters in most cases. A few areas will see double that, but mostly that's what we're looking at. And temperatures knocked back to seasonal. Not quite as mild as they've been, but the warm-up is coming.
It's coming. Just wait for it. That's our show for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Mike Wise has your next local news tonight at 11, right after the National. We will see you back here tomorrow at 6.